Hey guys, Mike here. I was going to do a video on TCU Boise State and rant and rave about how upset I am about that. First, I'm going to start with what the BCS is, how it's hurting smaller conferences by hoarding money to the bigger conferences, and just a little bit what it is in a nutshell and the problems with it. So I'm going to start with what is the BCS. All the information comes from collegebcs.com. It's operated by Jerry P. Palm, who has done a bang-up job between this and Fox's BCS site. I chose this because it just kind of lays it out and it criticizes it a little bit later on, which I'll get to my own criticisms instead of his, but he lays out the rules for the BCS. So here we go. What is the BCS? It's the Bowl Championship Series. Thought it was the Bullshit Championship Series, but that's not obviously what it doesn't stand for. And it's replaced what was known as the Bowl Alliance. Bowl Alliance was something in which they chose the top teams. And anyway, so that was the old way. They kind of just used the polls. They didn't use a computer system, and that's how they kind of determined the national champion. 2006, they started the fifth BCS game, which was the championship game. So that is not the +1 system, by the way. It is these two teams play. That's the national champion. So it's still determined by a computer, which uses the polls. What teams are eligible for BCS Bowls? Right now they have 4 different categories. They have the automatic qualifying conferences, which is the Big 10, the Big 12, the Pac-10, the SEC, the Big East, and the ACC. Then they have the non-automatic qualifying conferences, which is Conference USA, the MAC, Mountain West, WAC, and Sun Belt conferences. Then in its own separate division is Notre Dame, because their athletic director actually serves on the board that runs the BCS, and other independents. There are 10 spots in the 5 BCS bowl games, the Rose, Fiesta, Sugar, and Orange. You can't have more than 2 teams in the BCS games, with one exception. If an automatic qualifying conference has the top 2 teams in the standings, but neither is the champion, okay, then those 2 teams play for the BCS title as an at-large team, and the champion participates as well. So, for example, let's say Oregon and USC go undefeated. They can, well, they have to play everyone, so that's even a bad example, but you get what I'm saying. So, or let's say they play each other early on, one wins, and they still stay high in the ranks. They can play each other for the BCS title game. Here are the rules. Number 1, the top 2 teams in the rankings, those teams are assigned to the title game. Number 2, automatic qualifying conference champions, regardless of ranking, get in. And that we'll get into who gets into what bowls, and that's where that matters. Number 3, the highest rated champion of a non-automatic qualifying conference, if it either ranks in the top 12 or is ranked in the top 16, also ranked ahead of one of the champions of an automatic qualifying conference. But as you'll see the bowls go, most of those conferences have that settled. Notre Dame finishes in the top 8. They get to go no matter what. Number 5, and that's in the rankings. Number 5 and 6 is if number 3 team, if it's a member of an automatic qualifying conference, there's still an open spot. And number 4 team, if it's a member of an automatic qualifying conference, there's still an open spot. No team qualifies. Under Rule 5. So that in a nutshell, basically, there are a couple more rules. There's 9 wins against 1A opponents. They can count 1 AA win. That's just the different conferences. And is rated in the top 14 of the BCS standings. And if it's a non-automatic qualifying conference champion, it meets qualification standard number 3, but not the highest rated team in the team to do so. What that's saying is, so basically, because of, like, here's a good example. Also, the number 3 provision only applies to champions of non-automatic qualifying leagues. That means, for example, if TCU were to finish 11-1, but have that loss be to Utah, which is 8-4 overall, but 8-0 in Mountain West play, then TCU cannot automatically qualify in rule number 3, no matter how high it's ranked. It could be ranked number 2 in the nation. Cannot play for a BCS bowl because they lost to the conference champion because the Mountain West doesn't have a champion game. So they'd be in. It wouldn't, yeah. So basically, but that's not the rule for the other conferences. The SEC, LSU lost to Arkansas, and it's one other game, and they still got to go. And Arkansas was 8-4 that year. I looked it up, and so it didn't matter that they lost twice. They were ranked high and things happen for them to say 1-2, they get in because they're an automatic qualifying conference. Here's some of the problems. Real quick. So basically, here's the automatic choices for the bowls. The Titans, the Big Ten and Pac-10 champions play in the Rose Bowl. The Big 12 champion plays in the Fiesta Bowl, and the ACC champion plays in the Orange Bowl. So those are the only automatics. Everyone else gets kind of thrown in based off the rules I stated earlier. If for some reason, like this year, for example, the Fiesta Bowl, the Big 12 champion is playing in the national championship, they can choose someone to fill that spot. It doesn't have to be the Big 12. They could have chosen Iowa. They could have chosen some other team, but they didn't. So they chose Boise and TCU, which I'm irate about. So it's basically used with a computer system. That's what determines based off the polls. And it happens a little bit in the season, but there's a tie for second. They use a bunch of different things. Either the head-to-head results against highest-ranked common opponents, and then BCS ratings, and if not, they flip the cosmic coin. Basically, they choose who goes. Okay, so the problem with the BCS is that it's a voting system, and unlike RPI, which uses pretty much strictly who you've played and who their opponents have played, and using a formula to determine that. And yeah, the NCAA doesn't have to always honor that, and there's still a chance to get in. In this system, it's pretty much impossible for the small conferences to play for a national championship. So you can be in 1A, Boise can go undefeated next year, and if the pollsters start them out like they did last year, outside of the top, out of the top 25, they have no chance of playing for a national championship. They went undefeated this year, starting in the top 25. They still didn't have a chance. TCU started in the top 25, went undefeated, didn't have a chance. So that's kind of the problems with the BCS, is that they rely solely, pretty much, on the voters to vote and decide who gets to go to the national championship. A lot of this is based off media hype too, and conference hype. So I'm going to go into RPI in my next video. I promise I'll get to the Boise State TCU thing. I'll probably swear a lot. I swear a lot anyway. And thank you for watching. See you next time.